What is happening, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today as I give you an overview of the upcoming The Strange Death of Alex Raymond by Dave Sim and Carson Grubaugh. So, let's get started. Before getting started, a huge thank you to Carson Grubaugh for sending me this promo copy of The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. So this has a pretty interesting story behind it. This is a book that's been 10 years in the making, and this is a promotional copy only showing the first 118 pages of this book that's going to turn out to be 320 pages. It is up on Kickstarter right now, so if you're interested in the things you see here, or what I'm talking about, I will leave a link in the description where you can go and kickstart and fund this book. I think there's, as of this video, 13 days left. So this was a unique opportunity. By the way, a huge thank you again to Carson. He sent us an email a few months ago, and I was completely interested. The book, for some reason, got lost in the mail, and it got opened by the postal service, which it's fine, but it finally got here. And I finally have a chance to read it and talk about it. And it's one of these books that I will go ahead and say I could not put down. It was a page-turner, because I didn't know what to expect, honestly. This is Dave Sim, the same guy that worked on Cerebus. And it was something that he had been working on, and however, throughout the years, he's been unable to draw. And then that's where Carson stepped in. So Carson came in, and together they helped finish this project that's been going on for 10 years. Talking about Alex Raymond, who was the creator of Rip Kirby. He also created Flash Gordon. I'm sure probably most people are familiar with Flash Gordon than Rip Kirby. After reading this, now I want to go and find those IDW collections of Alex Raymond's Rip Kirby. So I didn't know what to expect opening these pages. I was maybe in my head, just based on the title, expecting something like a Kurosawa film, looking at the death of Alex Raymond from different people's perspective. That's kind of what I was expecting, but no, this is so much more. This is not just talking about the man himself, but the art of comics, the art of realistic art styles that exist. Oh, by the way, this brought back a lot of memories. So this is a very just ambitious project, and I can tell why it took so many years to make. This reminded me of working at comic book stores when looking at the catalog and the price guides. But I love seeing Gone, which was part of the Paradox Press, and that's a manga. And Gone Wild was one of the short-lived titles that when DC was doing Paradox Press, one of their imprints, they brought over. But this is the kind of artwork that you'll see in here by Dave Sim and by Carson. So it's all kinds of art styles that they're using to get their point across. So it feels more like a history lesson in comics. So it's like a mix of this biography of Alex Raymond and the lifestyle that he lived with Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, because it talks about the history of the different art styles and who borrowed what part of their art style from who. It's wonderful. It's things I didn't know about. It's a microscopic, like taking a microscope and looking at some of this amazing artwork. And oh man, the way they break it down and the way that the panels are laid out. So you can tell there's different sorts of art styles, mimicking the art styles of the people they are talking about. And then these are awesome. These talk about the three different masters that created this realistic style. Here, let's go to that page. So this is where he starts talking about the three different schools of realistic art styles, but all the time bringing up the fact about Alex Raymond and how he died and the mystery around it. Was it suicide? Was it homicide? And I wanted to keep reading, and I ran out because this is just a promo, so I cannot wait for this book. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences here in a minute. So here we have the non-stylized realism part, which talks about Hal Foster, and he's the guy that did Prince Valiant. And then it shows the influences he had on several artists like Russ Heath and John Severin, Jeff Jones. And then we get to Alex Raymond, of course, who has the stylized realism. And then it defines what stylized realism is compared to non-stylized realism. That's what I loved about this. This really felt like a history lesson, but also a lesson in art. That's why I compared it to Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. This is phenomenal. Then you have Milton Caniff, who was the artist on Terry and the Pirates, and his style was cartoon realism. And that kind of evolved into Joe Kubert, Will Eisner, and Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. And then other artists borrowed elements from their art to evolve their own art style, such as the case of Arthur Adams here. And then they break down what each of these modified, evolved art styles are like. This is so interesting and completely took me by surprise. Based on the cover and based on my little knowledge of who Alex Raymond was, like I said, I thought it was just going to be a biography on the gentleman that drew and created Rip Kirby and Flash Gordon. But then we meet a girl, like she works at a comic book store, and she's looking at, that's how it all starts. She's looking for a comic that doesn't exist, and that is The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. And she keeps finding it. It is gorgeous. There was a nice piece that they had it here. This is cool. So thank you so much for this, Carson. This is awesome. By the way, if you're interested in things like this and a good breakdown on art and stories and just comic book history in general, Carson started a YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in the description of the video if you want to go and check that out. And again, if you're interested in this type of story and this type of artwork, I put a link in the description to the Kickstarter. So the differences are going to be that the Kickstarter for it is a hardcover. It is 320 pages. It is 8.25 by 12 inches. And it is on 80-pound non-coated paper. So what we're looking at here, and this is one of the things that kind of bothered me, so I'm kind of glad that they did that. This is on glossy paper. And sometimes artwork like this just, it doesn't really stand out. The blacks stand out a lot better on glossy paper, but I think it would have looked better on matte paper. So for the hardcover, the actual Kickstarter, they are using a non-coated paper, so it's not going to have this glossy finish to it. And I think that is the best way to present the black and white art. Without giving, I can't do this book justice without breaking it down page by page. It is gorgeous, and I'm just showing some of the wonderful art and how the story is being told. This is a must for anyone that is interested in the history of comics and the art craft that goes behind the making of these wonderful stories. It's amazing, and I'm so glad this was sent my way. I'm so glad that the post office did not lose it, and I cannot wait to see what the finished product looks like. I thank you again for reaching out to me. I love this kind of stuff. This is amazing, completely unexpected, and I can already tell you by the end of the year, this is probably going to be one of my favorite reads in 2020. And for those of you wondering, in the hardcover version, there's also going to be extras, and this is kind of give you an idea of what to expect, like original artwork from some of the artists that we're talking about here, mainly Alex Raymond. There is an introduction by Howard Chaykin, at least in this promo. And then, of course, the bio here on the two creators behind this, what I'm sure most people are going to call a masterpiece, because it rightly deserves to be. It's freaking awesome. I was blown away. Again, I'll put the link in the description if you're interested in the artwork in here, and the finished product will be 320 pages, hardcover edition. And yeah, this was a big surprise. So everybody, check it out. Stay healthy, stay safe out there. Much love.